All right, so I'm here with Outmatch Boxing and Boxing on the Edge. We're going to talk about this weekend of fights. We've got the Fury Wilder trilogy card, obviously, very good show. And in the UK, there's the Fowler Smith card as well. All right, so starting with the Anthony Fowler, Liam Smith card. Now, to me, this is not the strongest show. I know Eddie Hearn likes to say that every show he has is one of the strongest cards we've ever done. It's like,
yeah,
Eddie Hearn
every time
it's like this is one of the strongest shows we've ever done. They can't all be the strongest shows you've ever done, Eddie. Jesus Christ. So this show to me is like, it's okay. I like the top of the bill, Liam Smith and Anthony Fowler. The undercard, you've got God, who's on there? Robbie Davis Jr. He's a Scouser, isn't he? Robbie Davis Jr.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, Cheeseman's on there too, is he? Oh no, not Cheeseman.
He is. Yeah. I'll come to that.
Yeah.
Solomon Dakers versus Sokolovsky. Solomon Dakers is like a heavyweight prospect. He's 2-0, British heavyweight prospect. Sokolovsky, we all know him. Tough Polish journeyman, dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's okay for a prospect. He's very experienced. I think he was on Team GB and all that.
Yeah.
Then there's Luke Willis versus Ryan Charlton. I've got no idea who Luke Willis is. He's 10-0. Ryan Charlton, I know who he is.
Yeah.
Any of you guys know who Luke Willis is?
I don't actually know. No, I don't know those guys.
No idea. Ryan Charlton fought, what's the Albanian guy called?
Marku,
yeah. He fought Marku and got mash up in that fight. Then on top of that, there's Shannon Courtney, right? The woman's fight. She got stripped. Yeah. She missed weight by quite a big amount. I think it was like 2 pounds or something.
Wow.
And she got stripped of her title. So she'll be fighting this Jamie Mitchell. Then we got Kieran Conway versus James Metcalf. Have you guys seen Kieran Conway fight?
No.
Conway, he was on the undercard of AJ Pulev, I think.
AJ Pulev.
No great shakes. He can't really punch. Big guy for a light middleweight, I think he is, but nothing special.
Okay. I'm looking at his face here. He looks like in the face, he looks like a conservative MP. Is it who's that conservative MP this guy looks like? But the conservative MP wears glasses.
I think I have the image in my head. I just don't know the name.
Is it? No, it's not. Hang on. Let me look up somebody here. There's a conservative MP this guy looks like. So he's fighting James Metcalf, who is the son of Shay Neary. He fought on the undercard of Dylan White Povetkin 2 in Gibraltar. And that was actually a thriller. Wasn't it with Ted Cheeseman?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was a crazy fight.
It was a good fight, yeah, definitely. I remember that.
Yeah, that was a crazy fight. I think he got knocked out dramatically after this tough battle with Cheeseman, the big cheese.
Yeah, that's true.
So then above that, there's Ted Cheeseman versus Troy Williamson. No idea who Troy Williamson is. I'm looking at his box right now. Some black guy from the northeast.
Yeah, he's from Darlington, isn't he? Somewhere like that.
Yeah. Okay. So you know something about him.
Yeah, I've seen him fight a couple of times. So I think he's a Frank Warren fighter.
Okay.
So he's on BT Sport. I heard of him in the amateurs as well. From what I've seen of him, he's a good athlete. He's shredded, probably single digits fat body percentage, but he is. I think he's chinny. I've heard stories of him in the amateurs getting chin. So
okay,
not a good look. Yeah,
interesting. Where did you hear those stories?
It was a few years ago. I can't remember who it was. I think I might have even saw one of his amateur fights and he got stopped.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, because I think he fought Jordan Reynolds, who was a guy who I was at West Ham roughly the same time he was, but I was a lot younger. So, yeah. The British circuit, especially amateurs, is quite tight-knit. So, things like this. I'm going off of memory, but I'm pretty sure he's been stopped a few times in the amateurs.
All right, so he's currently 30 years of age. So, I mean, he's quite old for a guy who's 16 0-1 and he's fought nobody so far. I'm looking at his record. I don't recognize anybody on there other than God, is there one Alistair Warren? I feel like I know the name Alistair Warren.
Did he fight Eubank Jr. back in the day?
I'm having a look now. He fought Mick Hennessy Jr. in 2019. He's the fat controller's son. He fought Marcus Morrison in 2018. Okay. Eubank Jr. fought Jamie Cox, Lennox Clark, Tommy he did fight Eubank Jr. Okay. Yeah. Eubank Jr. back in 2014. Fought John Ryder in 2012. Okay, this is a circuit journeyman who's fought a lot of different people. Alistair Warren. Yeah. So he beat him. And other than that, I don't recognize any of the names on this guy's record. Troy Williamson. So that's who Ted Cheeseman's going to fight. You'd have to imagine Cheeseman's going to be a big favorite with the experience and the quality of opposition. And Ted Cheeseman is tough, if nothing else. Very, very tough guy. Got a good chin, strong, always physically fit. So that is, I believe, chief support. And then top of the bill is Liam Smith versus Anthony Fowler. So how do you guys feel about this fight? How do you see it going? How do you see it playing out? First of all, outmatch. What do you think about this?
So the main event, I think, since it's been announced, I've been favouring Fowler. Historically, Fowler's not someone I've been too impressed with. I think most people probably concur that. But as Henry said earlier, I think Shane McGuigan has done wonders for Anthony Fowler. Because even though it's early days, you can really see his style start to evolve. And I know his nickname is The Machine. And to be honest, it was quite suitable because this guy had no fluidity at all. He was probably one of the most mechanical fighters you could ever watch.
Big time.
He's got that fluidity. He's got that swagger that you see with a lot of McGuigan fighters. And Liam Smith is actually coming off of a loss to
Russian, right?
Magomed Khurbanov, and I don't want to say he fights similarly to Fowler, but he has that kind of left side forward, relies on the left jab range, and I just think that Liam Smith he's a bit too basic. He's really an overachiever to think that this guy won a portion of the world title at light middleweight and went on to fight Canelo. Just too basic, in my opinion. Maybe could hurt Fowler, especially if they trade left hooks, because I think with Fowler and with most McGuigan fighters, the left hook isn't as it's not always there. So maybe if Smith can get into that kind of range, he might be able to topple Fowler like Fitzgerald did. But for the most part, I think that Fowler will be able to keep it long, maybe set up some power shots.
Yeah, that's what I think.
And probably not stop Smith, but keep him at bay and get a fairly comfortable decision.
Yes, over to you, Henry. What do you think about the fight?
Yeah, I love this fight. I think it's great domestically. The two guys from Liverpool, so it's added sort of intensity. I think stylistically, Smith, he does a lot of things well. He doesn't do anything great, in my opinion, but he covers up well with that shell. Comes forward, throws a lot of basic jabs and then attacks the body here and there. But I think Fowler's range, should be able to keep him at bay a little bit. And I think there's going to be some pretty, heated exchanges at some point. So that could be interesting when it gets a little lively. So I think it's a great fight. And, I'm looking forward to that for sure. And, we'll see what happens. But I think I would edge Fowler a little bit on points probably because they're both tough, They both train extremely hard. So, yeah, it's a good fight.
Yeah, Fowler is the taller guy, isn't he? I'm looking at BoxRec here, and I think they're both. Oh no, Fowler's 5'9" on BoxRec, and excuse me, Smith is 5'9" on BoxRec, and Fowler's 5'11". Okay, so he's the taller guy, ranger guy.
Like Ranger, he's long. It reminds me like the last fight he had reminded me a little bit of Carl Froch when he had that start with his like long kind of arm, just kind of like prodding out a little bit, like earlier Froch. And he kind of, if he can keep that and keep someone at bay, and then maybe bring that right hand through, it'd be good. It'd be good.
Yeah, they were saying that about Anthony Fowler early on in his career, they were saying that he's the new Carl Froch, and it hasn't quite turned out that way so far.
Not yet, not yet.
But you know, he's got time. He's got time.
Yeah,
so
well, big stage for him tomorrow. So
yeah, for me, Smith Fowler, it's a very interesting fight. It's a derby. I'm looking at Liam Smith's mindset coming into this fight because Eddie Hearn said that when he offered Smith the fight, Smith was almost insulted. Like he feels like Fowler is levels and levels below him because of the fact that Smith has been in with so many top people. Canelo, obviously he held a world title. He's fought Jaime Munguia and a bunch of other guys. So I'm just wondering whether he's being a bit contemptuous here, overlooking Fowler maybe a little bit and not realizing that his level might not be so far above Fowler's level, if at all, because who's Liam Smith actually ever beat? His best win is what? Liam Williams, 154 pounds. I think that's his best ever win. Other than that, this guy hasn't beaten anybody from my recollection anyway. Let me just have a look at his record again, Liam Smith. The guy that he won the title from years ago was like one of the Frank Warren specials where they get some obscure guy, you know, the WBO.
John Thompson.
John Thompson, yeah, like it sounds like somebody you meet down the pub. John Thompson, yeah, some obscure guy from God knows where they plucked him from in America. I've never heard of him before or since. And they got this guy to fight for a vacant WBO against Smith, so they really gifted him that title. And he had a couple soft defenses as well, from what I can remember.
Yeah.
Let me see here. So where's the John Thompson? Yeah, so John Thompson, then he defended against Jimmy Kelly. Yeah. And then he defended against a guy called Radovich, who on paper had a good record. I don't know what kind of fighter he was in retrospect, but yeah, couple soft defenses. Then they threw him in there with Canelo. That's when he was still promoted by Frank Warren, I believe, wasn't it? When he fought Canelo, I think he was still with Warren back then, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and then after that, he had the fights with Williams, Munguia. Who else did he fight? Roberto Garcia.
Sam Eggington, he beat.
Oh yeah. Sam Eggington. Hang on, Sam Eggington. When was that fight?
2019.
Oh yeah. Okay, I see that one. Yeah, he started Eggington in 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Liam Williams, yeah, it's his best win, really. That's
his best win. Other than that, he hasn't really beaten anybody. And I think Liam Williams is way more impressive at 160 pounds than he was at 154. Yeah, I never really paid Liam Williams much mind at 154, but moving up to 160, he's looked a lot better. Not that he's a world beater either at 160, but he looks a lot better.
Yeah.
So can certainly punch at 160.
Oh yeah. So for that to be Liam Smith's best win, I don't see how that puts him so far above Anthony Fowler, you know? I don't see it. Obviously, you gain experience from fighting the Canelos and the Jaime Munguias, and you know, he's always had that crab-like defense. He can tuck up tight and defend himself, but he's a pretty rudimentary fighter.
Yeah, I agree.
And you know, coming in there with this high and mighty attitude, like he's levels above Anthony Fowler, that might play into Fowler's hands.
Yeah.
You know, so particularly with the crowd, because the crowd are going to expect or Smith feeling like he's the superior fighter who's levels above. The crowd are going to expect that kind of performance from him. Obviously, it's a Liverpool derby. They're going to expect all that from him. So I feel like there's going to be more pressure on him to not get embarrassed by, you know, the guy who's supposed to be at a lower level. So yeah, it's an interesting fight. I can see how both guys could win, but I'd probably side with you two and say maybe Fowler on points. But it certainly wouldn't surprise me if Smith did beat him, because
I think it'd be close for sure.
Yeah, he might be able to wear him down the stretch, you know, get to him. But we'll see. It's going to be interesting.
I think so.
All right, moving on to the Fury Wilder show, should I say. Let's start further down the bill. So we got a debutant fighting on there, a few people. Right now, the first fight of interest for me is Jared Anderson, the heavyweight, taking on a guy called Vladimir Tereshkin. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't want to butcher his name any worse than I normally do. I'll end up in one of those Dwyer compilations. All right, so Jared Anderson versus Tereshkin, excuse me. Any of you guys ever heard of this Vladimir Tereshkin? He's an unbeaten 22-0-1 Russian who's based in Vegas. Either of you heard of this guy?
I have not. No, I'm looking at his record now, but I don't recognize him at all. It looks like he hasn't
Yeah,
fought for a couple of years.
I've seen one of his fights. It was a complete against a complete pie. And I think it may have even been recent, like maybe last year or something like that.
Okay.
And he's a pretty big unit. Doesn't look in the best of shape, but he has, you can tell that he's gone through the kind of Eastern European style, that schooling.
Yeah.
But I think I'm not really sure what his dedication's like, to
He
be honest.
he hasn't fought for 2 years, or 2019 was his last fight.
Oh, right.
wow.
So even further back than I realized.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at his record now as well. I noticed that he's fought in quite a few different countries, which is interesting. So he started off his career in Germany, like a lot of Eastern European guys do. That was back in 2007. So he's been a pro a good long time now.
Yeah.
And he hasn't done anything, which is a pretty it's a red flag, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
When a guy's been pro that long and he's done nothing.
Makes you wonder what they're doing.
It makes you wonder what he's been doing and who he's been fighting. And by the looks of it, it's not a who's who, but a who's he.
Indeed.
He's fought in Germany, he's fought in Finland, he's fought in Russia, he's fought in America, he's fought in Ukraine.
Fought in Jamaica.
Fought in Jamaica. His last 2 fights were in Kingston. What's that all about? Madness. Also fought in Latvia. So, yeah, that's the opponent. Probably a pie, but a big pie, 6'6". Southpaw against Jared Anderson. Anderson, to me, and I know people like to get how can I describe it? People like to go overboard and misquote me and misconstrue what I'm saying. So let me try and be very specific and precise. To me, Jared Anderson is the most impressive, athletic heavyweight that I've seen in a very, very long time. If we're just talking about athleticism, I'm not talking about how far he's going to go, because lots of athletic heavyweights come along every now and then. Shannon Briggs back in the 90s was extremely athletic, very athletically gifted, more so than Lennox Lewis. But he didn't go as far as Lennox Lewis or Riddick Bowe or many of these other people that he was more athletically gifted than. So, just to put that in context. But if we're just talking about athleticism, coordination, the speed, the balance, all that kind of stuff, that type of talent, Jared Anderson is one of the most impressive young heavyweight prospects I've seen for many a year. And I'm quite excited about him, to be honest. To see what he can do and see whether he can tick the boxes, whether he has the intangibles, the heart, the chin, the stamina, all this kind of stuff. What do you guys think? First of all, let's start with Henry.
Yeah, I think he's a great prospect. I haven't seen, movement like that from a young heavyweight for a while. Puts his punches together great. He's pretty fearless. He likes to put a lot of pressure on and just put his combination punches together and just, do damage. And it's great to see. I've yet to see him, take too much damage himself. So, like you said, those intangibles need to be answered, whether he does have a chin or a heart and stuff like that. But we'll find out soon enough, I guess. But yeah, I'm excited about him too. And he's also from the Midwest. So they don't mess around in that part of America. There's something that the teachings that go on up there is quite special, So it's definitely, he's got a bright future. I think he just keeps going. And also the interview, watching him interview as well, he's quite humble. He's only 21.
Yeah,
and he's got a good energy about him when he interviews as well. His feet are on the ground, and I think he's going to be all right. Good spot.
Yeah, what do you think, Sonny?
I feel exactly the same as you, to be honest. When I see him, you straight away you see the athleticism, and you're like, that alone, this guy can go far.
Yeah.
With me though, I think that in the skills department and the technique leaves a little bit to be desired, but he is young, so he does have time. And being in America, you can really just bounce around all the gyms because there are so many renowned gyms with renowned trainers. But yeah, when I've seen him, it's like there's that kind of American prospect mold that a lot of fighters fall into. There's a lot of posing, not really much substance.
Like Broner-esque.
Yeah, that kind of post-Mayweather era prospect kind of style. And it's a shame because a lot of guys who have had great athleticism, they fall into it and then they come up short. But that's the impression I get of him. But he does have age on his side. He does have time on his side. And athletically, like if you didn't know you were watching a heavyweight, say if there was no heads-up display on the telecast, you'd think it was a lighter weight class.
Yeah,
which is
impressive.
You'd think it was a super middleweight, maybe.
Yeah, and even the way he's built is like a super middleweight. I know it sounds weird, but like his body, his upper body, he isn't built like a typical heavyweight. Like an Anthony Joshua or even a Dylan White or somebody like that. It's loose striated muscles. He's not bulky at all. And he's not skinny either. He's just in that kind of middle ground again, like somebody who would be a light heavyweight or a super middleweight, that type of physique. So yeah, I'm very impressed by what I see in him with regards to the athleticism, the switch hitting, and he's got a tremendous jab. He fought some African guy, some huge. When I say huge, he was not only quite tall, but just heavy in weight. I think the guy was like best part of 300 pounds.
Was that the Nigerian guy?
Yeah. What was his name? eBay or something?
Yeah.
eBay. Yeah.
Kingsley.
Kingsley eBay. Yeah. I'm not sure if that's the correct way we're pronouncing it, but that's how the announcers were, pronouncing it. eBay, like the auction site. But yeah, he jabbed that guy to death. I mean, his jab was just tremendous. He was fast. It was just straight, solid, and he kept pumping it. He busted him up with a jab, and then he finished him off.
It's nice to see a young fighter use the jab a lot too. That's really good to see, because a lot of fighters dispense with it from time to time. But he definitely puts that stick out there. Yeah, good fighter.
Yeah, and he's 6'4", so he's kind of a medium height heavyweight for today's era. It's not crazy short. It's not like who could I think of? Andy Ruiz, maybe like 6'1", 6'2". You got shorter guys like Derek Chisora, obviously. He's taller than them. 6'4" is a decent-ish height.
Yeah, he's probably going to grow too. He's 21. He's probably got maybe a couple of years, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. I know Lennox Lewis, by the time he was 21, I think he was about 6'3". Yeah. And then a couple years later, he was 6'5". So it's possible he could grow another couple inches. But yeah, just the athleticism, the confidence. Even though Sonny was talking about the post Mayweather, generic off the shelf type style that he might have.
Yeah,
I still think that it's unusual to see a heavyweight, particularly heavyweights, because they don't tend to be as technically sound as quickly as lighter weights. It's unusual to see a guy of that age and such, relatively little experience as a pro looking so polished these days. Back in the days, you'd see it. But nowadays, as Dwyer was saying in a recent video, all the top heavyweights are in their 30s. It's mad. You've only got maybe Hrgovic, who's in his 20s, and Dubois. Is Dubois a top heavyweight yet? He's got it all to prove.
Yeah.
So
days.
Everybody's in their 30s. So there's a few like coming up in Anderson, F.A. Jaguar, who we're going to talk about in a second as well. So I'm very interested to see how far Jared Anderson can go, the next generation, and hopefully they put him in there with some people who can ask some questions.
Yeah.
All right. We've also got Rances Barthélemy fighting against TBA. Not sure who that's going to be. A super lightweight. Julian Williams versus Vladimir Hernandez. What do you guys know about this fight? Sonny, first of all, do you know anything about this Hernandez guy?
Virtually nothing. I know he's a Mexican, and that's about it. So yeah, okay. I really can't say much about this fight, to be honest.
Okay. What about you, Henry? Do you know anything about this?
I don't know anything about this guy at all. But it is interesting to see how J-Rock comes back from another, KO, because this is his last fight was against Rosario. and so he got knocked out in that. But he's come back from a knockout in the past. But I don't know who this guy is. Maybe like it's a lighter touch just to get his confidence back. But I've not seen him fight, so I can't really say too much.
All right, so Williams is on there against this Hernandez guy. That's a 10-rounder. Above that, we've got who else? Balanga. Is that how you pronounce his name at super middleweight?
Yeah,
I think so.
Edgar Balanga against. I'm even going to try to butcher this other guy's name. Caceres. Okay, that's how you say it. Yeah, you know anything about Evil? I don't know anything about either of these guys, so you guys will have to.
Well, Billy Joe actually, Billy Joe stopped that guy a couple of fights ago in that stadium in the UK. I can't remember where the stadium was.
But okay, in Stevenage.
Yeah.
It was the KSI undercard back in November 2019. It was in LA, I think.
Okay, I know the one who was giving Billy Joe problems, and then Billy Joe stopped him with an uppercut.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember him.
If Billy Joe knocked him out, I expect Balanga to knock him out as well, because he's got some serious power. So,
is it? So you've seen Balanga fight, yeah?
I've seen him fight a bunch. Yeah, there's not much to scream and shout about in New York at the moment, except for him, maybe.
Right. Okay.
He puts his punch. He's a powerful. He had, I think, 16 knockouts out of 16 first round knockouts out of 16, and then just his last fight went, I think, 8 rounds on a decision. He's good. He can get a bit reckless because he gets so into his power that he just wants to take his opponents out. So I've seen him try to do that, and then in the last fight, he kind of burnt out a little bit and took a shot, and he looked like he got hurt a little bit. So he is a bit susceptible because he gets so enamored by his own power. So, but he can bang for sure.
All right, you mentioned New York there. For the benefit of anybody watching, listening who doesn't know, Henry is an Englishman in New York like Sting. So he's gonna give us the lowdown on the scene over there in New York City, and make sure you check out his channel. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. He's got a channel called Boxing on the Edge. Make sure you check him out on YouTube. All right, moving up the card. What else we got here? Robeisy Ramirez. Don't know who that is. Orlando Ruiz. Don't know who that is. You guys know either of them?
Robeisy Ramirez won a gold medal for Cuba. Yeah, I think he beat Shakur Stevenson in the finals in 2016, maybe.
Oh, that was him who made Stevenson cry.
Yeah.
What a reputation.
Yeah. But he's struggled a little bit since he's been pro, and I think he definitely lost.
He lost his first fight. Yeah.
First fight, okay. Which other pros have done before, and come back. But he's I don't know. He redeemed himself with that fight, but he hasn't let everything on fire since he won the gold. So be interesting to see how he does tonight or tomorrow. Sorry.
Who is that tall, skinny? He's a black heavyweight that Eddie Hearn signed. American guy who lost his pro debut. I think it was his debut that he lost, or one of his very early fights.
Just recently?
It was when Eddie Hearn first went to America and helped to launch the Zone. I swear he was from New York as well. It was like a well-known American amateur.
Okay.
Can't remember his name, but he was supposed to be, one of Eddie Hearn's budding up-and-coming stars, and man got turned over in his pro debut.
And then Eddie Hearn never picked the phone up after that.
I think that's what it was.
One shot and that was it. He lost, and then he picked the phone up again.
Yeah, I think
I don't know who you're talking about. I can't remember.
That's gonna bug me now. I'm trying to think of all the.
You know the guy I'm talking about though. Do you remember the fight?
I don't know.
No,
you don't remember the fight. Oh man, I wish I remember, because he was a well-known prospect and won the Golden Gloves a bunch of times, I think. And
really, wow.
Yeah. Let me just do a quick Google search a second. Hang on.
The fight was in America, or was?
Yeah, the fight was in America. Yeah, the fight was in America. Let me see. Boxer Eddie Hearn loses pro debut. See what comes up. Yeah, Solomon Nkosi Solomon. Nkosi Solomon is the guy's name. Yeah.
Doesn't sound familiar.
Nkosi Solomon. It says here, I'm just reading an article on worldboxingnews.net. What's it say? What's it taking so long to load? Nope, something wrong with their website. Yeah, but anyway, let me not get sidetracked. Nkosi Solomon, I don't know what the hell happened to that guy, but he lost his pro debut and then disappeared into obscurity.
Yeah.
So moving up the bill, this is where it gets tasty. Now, I'm pretty firm on who I think is going to win this fight, but I want to hear what you guys think about it first. And that is Efe Ajagba, unbeaten 15-0 Nigerian heavyweight, going up against Frank Sanchez, who is an 18-0 Cuban heavyweight. First of all, Sonny, what do you think about this fight? How do you see it going?
Wow. This is a tricky one. Just to kind of nail my colours to the mast, I think I have to go for Frank Sanchez, because even though he's kind of wild and he likes a punch up, I just think he's maybe the chance of him getting out the way of Ajagba's shots is a lot higher than Ajagba getting out of the way of his shots. And so I think it will be a shootout while it lasts. And I just think with Ajagba, or I keep going to call him Agaba because I keep watching that Dwyer video, and it's in my head. But with Ajagba, he's just so upright and so stiff in the back, and he doesn't even make up for it by having like mobile feet.
Yeah.
He's got power though, so you can never discount him. But I think Frank Sanchez probably just a bit too much energy, bit too much mobility, and probably too much tenacity as well.
Okay.
So I think he's going to turn Ajagba over, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think, Henry?
To be honest, I haven't seen that much of Sanchez, but I was watching a few highlights this morning, and coming from that Cuban background too, he's also under Reynoso.
That's right. Yeah.
So hopefully they'll put a good game plan together, and try not to stand right in front of Ajagba, because that's how he gets most of his guys out there. They just sort of stand in front of him. He just lays that right hand through, and the night's over. So if he works some angles, I can see it being. Who's favored? Is Ajagba the favorite in this? So,
I'm not even sure. It might be a 50-50. I don't know what the betting line is.
Yeah, it seems like a good fight, but I would go with Sanchez too, because Ajagba's got, he's got some power, but there's definitely some flaws there. Definitely some ways in, angles and stuff like that. And yeah, it should be interesting, but I don't know that much about Sanchez. So
I have to echo what you guys are saying. Certainly when Sonny was talking about Ajagba being very upright, stiff, not much head movement, pretty basic and rudimentary. I've never been particularly impressed by Ajagba. He's got power there, obviously, but people, particularly with heavyweights, can get very carried away with punching power. He fought a guy that Joe Joyce and I think a couple other heavyweights just walked straight through. I think he was Romanian or Eastern European.
Kaladze.
That's the guy. Yeah, Kaladze. And he actually dropped to Ajagba.
Yeah, I remember that actually, yeah.
And I know that's not necessarily the end of the world, right? Tyson Fury got dropped by, who was it now? Nevin Pikage and Steve Cunningham or what have you. But the thing that was most disturbing to me about Ajagba getting dropped the way that he did is that Kaladze was on rubber legs himself when he dropped Ajagba. And he's a much smaller guy that's campaigned mainly at cruiserweight. And literally, he could barely stand. He was on jelly legs. And then he landed a fairly, what looked like innocuous looking shot on Ajagba. And down he went. So to me, there's questions there about Ajagba's punch resistance. Very stiff, very basic. He just looks to try and line up the right hand and doesn't do much else, from what I can see. Frank Sanchez, a much more rounded fighter, comes from that old, tradition of Cuban boxing, faster, more athletically gifted, despite the fact he's about 155 years old. Don't allow the official age.
27.
Yeah, 27. I mean, add 10 or 20 years on, you'd be closer to the reality. Frank Sanchez, despite being old as dust, I think he is the faster guy, the more athletic guy. I think he's a bit shorter. Jagba's like 6'6". Sanchez might be 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
So as long as Sanchez can stay out of the way of the right hand,
Yeah,
he should be outboxing this guy.
I
And
agree.
when these guys come up in Cuba, right, these heavyweights,
Mm.
they're sparring huge guys over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're going hell for leather in the gym, and they're trying to fight for a place on the team because for them, it's not just about bragging rights. Yeah, it's not just about winning trophies. It's actually about winning their freedom.
Yeah.
Because these guys are trying to defect from Cuba. Yes, to go live in the United States and live the American dream. So the hunger is on the next level when they're out there in Cuba. Yeah, so these guys are really going at it in the gym and trying to fight the way out of poverty, basically.
Yeah, literally.
So, literally.
Yeah.
So Frank Sanchez would have seen people just like a Jaguar, same dimensions, look just like him, sparred and fought them many, many times. So I'm sure he won't be intimidated by the prospect of going in there with a guy that punches as hard as this guy does, a big, strong guy like this. Obviously, if he does get cracked, then, I mean, a Jaguar can really bang. He might knock Sanchez's hairline even further back than it already is. He'll be bald, I'm telling you. He'll just have a little patch on the back of his neck. You get me? The hairline will get knocked back that far. But yeah, I think Sanchez should win this fight. I want to say on points. I wouldn't discount the possibility of him maybe stopping the Jaguar. The only danger for him is if he gets a bit overexcited. Yeah, if it's a little bit too easy outboxing the Jaguar and he gets overexcited, maybe rushes onto one, then it could be curtains for him. But for me, it's maybe a 60-40 in favor of Sanchez. Yeah, for me, maybe 60-40 in favor of Sanchez. All right, moving up to the chief support, which is a rematch between Robert Helenius and Adam Kaunaki. I'm going to call him Kaunaki. You guys can pronounce Kaunaki however you want. Henry, first of all, what do you think about this fight? How do you see it going?
Yeah, it's a good fight. I was honestly shocked when I saw the first fight they had. I thought Kaunaki would just had an iron jaw, and I don't think I've ever seen him hurt. He just walks his opponents down and just uses his chin for defense and just gets the guys out there. But I don't see the fight going the same way. I actually watched the rematch this morning just to sort of refresh, and he just needs to be a bit more cautious walking in. He's not going to change his style too much. He's going to be very rudimentary walking in, but he just didn't walk in without a care in the world in the first fight, and just got clipped out of nowhere and then carried on walking in, and then the fight was over. So I could see him putting the pressure on and just doing what he normally does, but just being a bit more cautious about it, and then possibly getting a later stoppage once Helenius kind of throws those big bombs and gets a bit gassed. Maybe. I think Kaunaki's going to win this, and think it's going to be a U-turn at this time. So yeah, it should be entertaining, man.
Yeah. What do you think, Sonny?
This one's tough as well. I think I'm ever so slightly favouring Helenius for this one. Helenius, he's such a glass cannon. Like he's not the greatest heavyweight at all, but he can punch and he gives it a go, I guess. I think with Kovnatski, he's just he in the first fight he was blocking punches with his face. And it's like this guy didn't even have the fighting instinct to bring his hand up a bit more. And it's weird because he actually looks like a big baby. I know he's friends with Jarrell Miller, but he actually looks like a baby. It's quite odd. I don't necessarily know what kind of comeback trail he's been on, whether he's changed up trainers or anything like that. I think if he comes in lighter and looks to close down the distance a bit quicker, because that's the thing. It's like he was literally just standing in front of Helenius for a lot of the time. And if he drops a bit of weight maybe, and he can close the distance quicker and maybe tie up Helenius, because I'm not sure if Helenius's heart is really in it, because in the first fight, just looking at Helenius's body language, there were times where he looked, he's quite ragged, and it was like he was second guessing himself. He captured the win, and obviously he was probably very relieved afterwards, but maybe that could be a strategy for Kovnatski, is to just pressure Helenius, but do so with a bit more haste and not spend so much time in front of him.
Yeah, I think that Hellenius is a guy with very heavy hands, and he hurt Kaunaki in the first fight. I think without, I know it's going to sound strange, without really trying. Kind of the same way that he hurt Dylan White when he fought him. He made Dylan White's eyes roll up in the back of his head. I think he was like in the second round, he hit him with a shot. Dylan White's eyes literally went in the back of his head. And that's how hard Hellenius hit. So even when he's not really trying to throw a knockout shot, he can hurt you because he's very, very heavy-handed. I think it was Duopa, yeah. It was what does he go by on YouTube? Jack Napier, the French guy, you know. You all know who I'm talking about. He actually spoke to Duopa, I think it was on Facebook in a private message or whatever, and Duopa told him that Hellenius, I think, was the hardest puncher he'd fought. And remember, the guy had fought Wilder. So Hellenius can really, really crack. Got very, very heavy hands, but he just doesn't have any heart for battle at all. Every single time I've seen Hellenius, other than the Kaunaki fight, every single time I've seen this guy in a tough fight, he's folded. Every time. Yeah, he lost to Chisora. I don't care what the judges say, but he lost that fight. And then he fought Duopa. He got stopped in that fight. He folded. He obviously just survived the 12 rounds against Dylan White. So, you know, this guy doesn't have the heart for battle. He doesn't have the spirit for it, but he does have heavy hands. I think I'm looking at his record again now. His best win was probably... I'm not going to say that Chisora was a win. Sam Peter, who was shot to pieces back in 2011, he knocked him out in 9 rounds. Other than that, he beat Erkan Tepa, who was also shot in 8 rounds back in 2018. Got stopped by Gerald Washington. I forgot to mention that. Who gets stopped by Gerald Washington?
I don't know.
That's a damning indictment.
That's crazy. Like, who gets stopped by Gerald Washington? Joe Washington is the guy who gets stopped by other people. Hang on a sec here. We got G-Man. I want to add him to the chat. I might have been neglecting him. I did hear a ping on the line. 1 second. Let me add G-Man in.
How are we?
Yes.
Man. How are we?
Yeah, what's happening, G-Man? What's good, bro?
How's the lads? Good.
All good. Gonna bring you in on this convo in just a second. Just want to finish up what I was saying about this fight here. So yeah, Kaunaki against Hellenius. Hellenius has never shown the kind of heart for battle that you'd want to see. When I say capitulated, he gave up mentally from what I saw against Gerald Washington and made Gerald Washington look like Rocky Balboa or something in that fight. Crazy. Crazy, because Gerald Washington's normally the guy that's collapsing, you know.
That's one of the blemish, isn't it? Getting knocked out by Gerald Washington is painful, right?
It's crazy. I remember when Gerald Washington, when he was still unbeaten, he fought Eddie Chambers, and he boxed Eddie Chambers like Chambers was a prime Mike Tyson.
Oh, I remember that.
Eddie Chambers is a little guy. He's little. He's not even a big puncher. And Gerald Washington, 6'6", huge, strong, athletic guy. He was boxing Eddie Chambers like he was the most dangerous heavyweight in the world. It's unbelievable. So yeah, a guy who just folds like a deck chair against Gerald Washington, even against someone like Kaunaki, who he did manage to stop last time out. I can't have any confidence in him. So I'm going for Kaunaki to win this fight. Just as Henry said, just be a bit, I think he's going to be a bit more careful about what he's doing coming forward, because when he fought Gerald Washington even, there was no care at all. Just full steam ahead. I don't care what you hit me with. I'm going to hit you with harder shots. Let's just have an all-out slugfest. But this time around, I think there will be a little bit more care. And I think after a few rounds, if Hellenius hasn't managed to hurt him again, or if he isn't outboxing him, etc., I do think Hellenius is going to start to break down mentally. If there's a chance for Hellenius to win this fight, I suspect it will be on points. Like if he can somehow hurt Kaunaki, make him so hesitant that he can control him on the outside with a jab, then maybe he could take it on points. But no, I think Kaunaki's going to do it. That I have seen him kind of stunned before in a fight prior to getting stopped by Hellenius, and that was against Charles Martin back in the day. So
That was a good fight, actually. I
Yeah,
remember
that was a good fight. That was a good fight. And Charles Martin did stun him late on in that fight. But other than that, he's shown a solid chin. So, yeah, I'm taking Kaunaki to win. I want to say late stoppage. Maybe around 9 rounds, something like that. Break Kalenius down and take him out late. So, all right, G-Man, you got some catching up to do. If I could just get your quick breakdown and prediction on the fights I'm going to mention. So I won't mention all the fights on the Smith Fowler undercard, but just a couple of them. So let's have a look here. First of all, Cheeseman against Troy Williamson. Not sure if you know much about Troy Williamson.
I do. I seen his last fight. I think Cheeseman should win that fight. I wasn't too impressed with Williamson in his last fight, even though we got a stoppage. I think that Cheeseman will just wear him down. I think he'll just wear Troy Williams down. But one thing about Cheeseman, he's got a defense like Swiss cheese. There's not many holes in it.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. What about Kieran, Conway, James Metcalf?
Right. If Metcalf hadn't been stopped the way he was against Cheeseman, I'd probably pick Metcalf to win. But I think that was a real grueling fight, and I don't think he's recovered fully. Kieran Conway is a decent domestic level fighter. I think Metcalf, if he's got anything left, should win. But I think after that Cheeseman fight, I think he's probably going to be running on empty. So I go with Conway.
Okay. And top of the bill, Liam Smith versus Fowler. How do you see that going?
I'm going to stick my neck out and say Fowler wins. I think Liam Smith has probably seen better days, and I think he's there for the taking.
All right. What else we got here? Jared Anderson. Well, it's not really much of a fight. I don't know if you know about the opponent that he's fighting. Tereshkin.
I don't know much about the opponent. Comes in with a nice unbeaten record. But that might not mean much. I mean, we've seen a lot of fighters unbeaten who haven't been good. But Jared Anderson, I'm just excited to watch. He's one of probably my most favorite up and coming prospect in the heavyweight division, much less out of America. He's extremely talented, extremely fast, confident, powerful. I'm really impressed with what I see from young Jared Anderson.
Yeah. To me, for some reason, I don't know whether it's just a stylistic similarity, but for a while I was getting their names confused. Jared Anderson and Boots Ennis. Yeah,
I did that as well.
It's Jaron Ennis, isn't it? Jaron Ennis. I kept on mixing them up, even though they're many, many weight divisions apart. But they have a similar kind of energy and their style similar. They switch hit, and there's a tremendous amount of talent there. So yeah, I'm with you on that on Jared Anderson. Do you know much about Julian Williams' opponent? He's find a guy called Vladimir Hernandez.
I know a little bit about his opponent. His opponent has a little bit of pop, and that will be a worry because Julian Williams J-Rock has a very poor chin, and J-Rock tends to, whenever it gets tough in a fight, even if it's not been that tough, like against Rosario, he started brilliantly. He cut opened up and he just capitulated. He wasn't even dropped. He just capitulated mentally and let Rosario take over. There's always a worry with J-Rock that he just lets the fight slip away. And it's his first fight back since then, so I don't know. I'd be worried about that fight.
In fact, this just slipped past me. Why is this guy called Vladimir Hernandez? It's like Russia meets Mexico. What's that all about? All right, moving up the card. Do you know much about Edgar Balanga?
Yes, I do. Edgar Balanga, 16-0 he was with 16 first-round knockouts, all against terrible opponents. His last fight, he went 8 rounds. One thing I'll say, he has natural power. You can see that he's very heavy-handed. All his shots look to have power, but I don't see them really doing much with him. I mean, there's been talk about him fighting Jesse Hart, and I think that's a horrible match for him stylistically. If you can survive a couple of rounds with Edgar Balanga and take him into the trenches, I think you'll drown them.
Yeah. All right. So getting to the heavyweight fights, what do you think about a Jaguar Sanchez?
Only one winner, Frank Sanchez. Like, I like Jaguar, but I just think this fight's coming way too soon. There's a lot of work needs to be done with him. I think it was Cadsides or whatever, something like that his name was, who dropped him whilst he was hurt, and it wasn't even a great shot. Yeah. If he's dropping you, Frank Sanchez is not the biggest one-punch puncher, but he hits hard enough. I think he's just stylistically, it's all wrong. I think Frank Sanchez will have seen an FA Jagba many times over in the amateurs. He'll know what to do, and I can't see this. I can't see that fight lasting any more than 5-6 rounds.
Ah, interesting. What about Hellenius Kaunaki, the rematch?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I was shocked. Honestly, like I was complaining about how bad Hellenius was as a choice opponent first time because I thought Hellenius was just finished. But I think Kaunaki will be smart to know not to go in with his chin down against Hellenius because Hellenius, for all his flaws, punching power is always something he's had. And I think he'll be a bit more cautious. Hellenius has he's no hunger. He's no heart. Like, he's no fire for battle. So the minute he realizes I can't win this fight, I think he'll either try and survive the 12 rounds or he'll just look for a place to lie down.
All right. So finally we get to the main event. Let's start with Sonny first. Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder 3. Give us your breakdown of this fight. How do you see it going?
So, right. This one, I did a video on it yesterday or earlier today. For my money, just to kind of project what I think is going to happen, I actually think out of all 3 fights these guys have, I anticipate this being the least entertaining. I think that what I addressed in my video was quite heavily the psychological aspects of this fight, because I think with Deontay Wilder, even though he got an absolute shellacking from Tyson Fury in the last fight, I'm wondering whether if some of the pressure is now taken off of has been taken off of Wilder because he's no longer undefeated. I don't think many people in the boxing public expect much from him. Whereas with Tyson Fury, a lot of people expect him to do the same, if not more, to Wilder than he did in the last fight. But I was also wondering whether Tyson Fury actually perceives Wilder as that much of a threat anymore. Because as we all know here, Tyson Fury is historically someone who performs at a subpar quality when he doesn't perceive someone to be a threat. So for that reason, I think maybe Wilder has a bit more of a desire, because the thing is as well, like in the second fight, he wasn't lacking heart at all. You couldn't see any give in his eyes, but he was exhausted. He was bleeding from his mouth, his nose, his ears. But I think he's kind of probably got a bit more desire, whereas Tyson Fury is maybe just ever so slightly complacent to the point where it's a closer fight, but one that I think Tyson Fury still wins, probably on points. I think he's probably just had a bit more time to consolidate his style under Javon Hill. Whereas Deontay Wilder, I think I can't see him getting off that much in terms of meaningful offense, but I think he's going to now be aware, and he knows that Tyson Fury can walk him down, can pressure him, and can rough him up quite badly. So I see this one going long. Maybe looks at points that it's going to like boil over a little bit, but I think it's going to be a fairly mundane fight to watch, if I'm honest. I hope I'm wrong, but yeah, I'm just going to go Tyson Fury on points in an okay fight.
All right. So Outmatch is going for Fury points in an okay fight. Boxing on the Edge. What do you think about this fight? How do you see it going?
Yeah, I think almost the opposite, really. I think like I can't see Fury doing anything other than pushing Wilder or trying to tactically just jump on Wilder and push him back. Like I watched the second fight again just the other day, and his footwork is just beyond atrocious. Wilder's footwork when somebody's on him and they're either fainting and pushing him back and he's going backwards, his footwork's atrocious and his hands are all up in the air. So I think if I was in a Fury camp, just do exactly what you did last time. And then you get Wilder coming forward and giving him time to set his feet and let that 1-2 go. I think that's the danger. So I think Fury's going to push him back and he's going to bully him again. He doesn't appear to be in as mentally a sharper state this time as he was in the second fight, but who knows? He plays a lot of games. But I wouldn't try and sit there with Wilder and just give him time to put his shots together. Just push him back. He cannot fight going backwards. So He panics. He can't. His feet get all tangled up. Just he can't fight on the inside. So it just, boxing is a complicated sport, but sometimes it's pretty straightforward. It's pushing back. He can't fight going back, and you've already done it. The blueprint is there. Just do the same thing again. I mean, that's what I think. I think he's gonna. I actually think he might stop him a bit earlier. To be honest, maybe about 4 or 5. I don't think he's gonna want to take it later. He's already felt his power late. I think just go in and put it on him from the opening bell, just like he did before.
All right, that's
Wilder panic.
So boxing on the edge is taking Fury by a KO, possibly earlier than last time.
Yeah.
And finally, G-Man, give us your breakdown in this fight.
Okay, so I genuinely think this is going to be a good fight. I think it's going to go late. I think in Fury, late stoppage. And I don't know why, but something's telling me this fight's going to be more competitive in the rematch. I think Fury's going to pick up from where he left off, trying to get his jab working. But I can see him potentially maybe implementing a bit of boxing, just trying to get Wilder offset, thinking 1 minute he'll be coming forward and the next minute he's boxing. If I was in Team Wilder, one thing I'd be saying to Wilder is don't try and meet him head on if he's coming at you. Use your feet. And if you can't land the right hand to the head, look at what Adonis Stevenson used to do. He used to throw the left hand to the body, and that would bring people's arms down. Like, I think I remember against Bellew and against Badu Jack, he was throwing that lead left hand, and that was his best punch to the body. And that was slowing his opponents down. If Wilder had any sense and he wanted to take Fury's legs away, especially if Fury's coming in even heavier, what's wrong with throwing a right hand to the body? It's probably his best punch. It'll hurt anywhere on Fury. So if he keeps getting tagged to the body with right hands, he'll be thinking, you know what, this hurts. Having said that, I seen a picture of Wilder looking like he's bulked up a lot of muscle. I don't know if anyone else has seen that.
Yeah, I saw the pictures. Yeah.
If honestly, I don't understand why he's been saying this for years that he wants to gain muscle. I don't understand it, because to me, he gained weight for the rematch, and that was partially one of the reasons I think why he was knackered, because his body's just not designed to carry that muscle. And whenever he has weighed in the high 220s, he's looked nowhere near as good. So if he comes in with, say, 235, then I'll probably change my pick and I'll say actually Fury a lot earlier, because Wilder will probably be knackered after about 3 rounds carrying all that muscle.
Yeah. In fact, when is the weigh-in? Is it happening right now?
I think so.
I would say I'll check on, because Top Rank normally put the time the weigh-in's going to happen at.
Okay, by the looks of it, it hasn't started yet. I'm seeing it scheduled on a couple channels.
It's saying 10 p.m. our time, UK time.
Okay.
Wilder's he's getting his costume together, so
yeah. What's he gonna weigh? With the costume on versus without the costume.
That'll be 300 pounds with the costume.
So yeah, sorry, G-Man. So you're saying, how do you see the fight playing out in terms of the result? Like, who's gonna win and by what method?
I think Tyson Fury is going to win by stoppage again, but I think it's going to be a late stoppage this time. I don't think it's going to be early. I said it's probably going to be between rounds 9 to 12. Okay.
Yeah, I tend to kind of side with you in terms of the way I see this fight playing out. I think, it's interesting you said about Wilder going to Fury's body. I was watching an interview with Shane McGuigan, and I rate Shane McGuigan as a trainer, and that's what he was saying Wilder needs to do, is throw a right hand to Fury's body and work his way up. Also, what Wilder can do is jab to the head and throw the right hand to the body after it. Yeah, which kind of confuses the opponent, because a jab to the head is usually followed by a right hand to the head. So they'll start, shaping up to defend the right hand to the head, and then bang, in the right hand goes to the body. And you can condition a guy like that, and then get him to start dropping the left hand to try and parry the body shot, and then that's when the right hand comes over the top of their left. You can catch him. So yeah, that's interesting if Wilder can use those kind of tactics. It's whether Fury will give him the opportunity, because he's got a longer jab than Wilder, and his jab is going to get there before Wilder can, maybe set himself to throw a right hand to the body or a left jab to the head. I do think that, as you said, or I think it was Henry said, Fury doesn't quite seem as sharp or as up for it as he did for the second fight. And I do think that Fury does key off his emotional state and the energy in the room, to lift him for certain performances. And with Wilder not really giving him much to go on, you know, just trying to stay very calm and quiet and all this kind of thing, I'm not expecting such a fiery performance from Tyson Fury. And if you're forcing your work, you're more likely to make mistakes, and you're more likely to get tired as well if you're just forcing yourself to do stuff. So I suspect that Tyson Fury won't get Wilder out of there earlier. I could be wrong. Maybe he will. I suspect it will be a longer fight. There might be some hairy moments. And the fact that they've got Wilder so calm is quite impressive to me. It looked a bit silly during the first press conference when Wilder wasn't saying anything and he had the headphones on and all that kind of stuff. But the last press conference I saw, where Wilder was just not biting for the most part in terms of anything Fury was saying, I thought that was quite impressive that they got him into that kind of mental state. Yeah. He's just focusing on what he wants to do. He's not worried about what Tyson Fury says or what Tyson Fury is going to do. He's focusing on what his game plan is. Doesn't mean his game plan will work, but the fact that he believes in it and he's calm and confident in it is going to help him. So, I think the fight will probably go a bit longer. I'm still picking Tyson Fury. I want to say he stops Deontay Wilder. For some reason, I'm thinking the 10th round. If he doesn't manage to get him out in the 10th, I think it will go to points. And it might be a relatively close points decision for Tyson Fury.
Teddy Atlas thinks he's going to. Teddy Atlas thinks he's going to get Wilder's going to knock him out earlier.
Oh, really? He thinks Wilder's going to knock Fury out.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, he was bang on the money with his Usyk Joshua prediction. Yeah, he got that right.
He usually is. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Did he say exactly why he thinks Wilder's going to turn it around this time?
I couldn't tell you exactly why. I was just watching it. I was interested in his outcome, but I can't remember exactly why. No.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people saying that now. They just feel it in their bones. They just feel it in the air and the water that Fury's going to lose this somehow. And I do get a little hint of that as well, just because the energy is different.
It does feel that way, doesn't it? I have that kind of, not the same feeling that he's going to lose, but that something is going to happen. He'll probably still win, but we'll be talking about something happening in this fight. It won't be a one side. You have that feeling, don't you?
Yeah. With Fury being heavier, if Wilder does connect, you see, people often talk about being heavier, you can take the shots better. But the way I see it is, if a guy's heavier and he's intent on coming forward, if he does get clipped with a shot, he's going to double the impact because he's coming forward. And also because he's heavier, it makes him more of an impact because he's not going to move back as much. His upper body's not going to move back as much to take the sting off the punches. You understand? If he's like really heavy and solid. I mean, I've seen it with guys who are powerlifters and stuff like that over the years, try their hand at boxing. And once they get hit, even by somebody half their size, I remember there was a guy that competed in strongman competitions. I think he was from Finland. And I watched him in a professional boxing match on Eurosport way back in the days with Steve Holdsworth commentating. It was hilarious. And he was fighting some little black guy. That black guy was way smaller than him. And the little black guy was terrified because of the size of this huge giant. And he was, swinging these big shots. And he was chasing this little black guy around the ring for several rounds. And then just suddenly, halfway through the fight, the little black guy plucked up the courage to actually throw a proper punch.
Yeah.
And it hit this guy on the chin. And there was no give in his body at all. Like when a lot of pro fighters get hit, they ride the punches. Canelo Alvarez is very good at that. Yeah. His body moves in the same direction, or his head moves in the same direction as the punch to take the sting off it. Mm-hmm. When you're so big and heavy like a power lifter, you ain't riding no punches.
No. You barely move your shoulders, probably.
You barely move your shoulders. You're like, you can't even turn your head. You got to turn your whole upper body to look round from left to right. Yeah. So there was no movement at all, no riding the punch. He got cracked on the chin, and this guy went down like a ton of bricks. It was crazy. It's like this guy half his size just chinned him like that.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when guys are heavier, it can mean that there's a greater impact when they get caught clean, from the opponent. So particularly if they're coming forward. So I'm wondering if that could happen to Tyson Fury if he gets clipped by Wilder in this fight. Particularly with Wilder I'm guessing he's going to be a bit more defensively minded and, you know, try and mess about a little bit. That certainly seems to be what they've been working on the pads with Malik Scott, because although he has been throwing body shots and combinations and all this, if you notice, a lot of the stuff has been on the back foot. He's been moving around the ring, and Scott has been, you know, backing him into corners and all this kind of stuff. So if he's got a mind of trying to catch Fury coming in, he might be able to get, you know, do something like that, because he has caught a few people coming in. So I wouldn't be surprised if Fury gets dropped again in this fight. That's basically what I'm saying.
Well, he got caught with some big shots in the first 2 rounds, didn't he? That he got caught with 2 clean right hands early on.
Yeah.
And that looked, you know, that could do some damage if he caught him just a little bit lower on the chin.
Yeah. And he did, again, he pulled back slightly from those shots. They did land, but he was just pulling back slightly, took the sting out of them.
Yeah.
Whereas if he's heavier and if he's not quite as on it, not quite as sharp, they could land more flush and he could be in a lot of trouble. So I want to say there might be a few little hairy moments for Fury. He might even have to climb off the canvas. But I'm still going to say he's winning the fight. And going back to Shane McGuigan's interview, which was a very interesting interview, he just said that Wilder is far too egotistical to take any instruction in the corner. So if he does find himself in, you know, deep water like he was last time, he's not going to listen to anything Malik Scott is telling him. You know, he's going to revert back to type and start winging away, being the old Deontay Wilder. You know, his ego is crazy. I mean, every single time I see Malik Scott now, he has to mention the fact that, I haven't actually taught Deontay anything. He says it in every interview now. Whenever if Wilder's there with him, it's cringeworthy. It is. If Wilder's there with him, he always has to make a point of saying, I haven't actually taught Deontay anything. I've just brought out of him what's already there. Yeah. It's like this guy's ego is unbelievable. Wilder. I've never seen anything like it. It's like the whole Al Heyman thing. You know, after the fights, the Al Heyman fighters have to say, I thank Al Heyman, and then they thank God. And then they thank their trainers and everybody else after Al Heyman. Like, Heyman comes first. And with Wilder, he wants his whole team to have the same attitude towards him. Yeah, like, nobody teaches me anything. You're just here along for the ride with me, assisting me, but I know everything. So that kind of mentality, is it really enough to beat Tyson Fury? I think it might be enough to give Tyson Fury some problems, maybe drop him. But I still see Fury coming through in the end. And I want to say either 10th round stoppage for Fury, or maybe Fury on a close decision. So, yeah, that's my take on it. Any final thoughts from you guys on any of the fights, this fight, any of the other fights?
Go ahead, Jimmy. No, not really. I mean, I'm just excited for a whole day of boxing, you know, like the undercards being good and just, you know, having some big fights back. You know, we've kind of missed out a little bit this year on boxing in general, at least the big events. So this one's good, and, you know, like I said, the undercards are there. It's exciting, and we've got some boxing back. So yeah, I'm well up for this.
Yeah, big weekend of fights.
Definitely,
So,
definitely.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. All right, so since I didn't give you a formal introduction earlier on, Boxing on the Edge, Henry, tell us about your channel, where people can find you. I'm not sure if you're on any other social media, but your YouTube channel is very interesting. Yeah, tell us about it.
Yeah, it's basically, you know, I'm covering boxing techniques. You know, I used to box in the amateurs here in New York City in the blue collar circuit, and was at Gleason's gym for a long time, and was, you know, under the tutelage of some good trainers and surrounded by some good fighters. So I picked up a lot of knowledge, and, you know, in the gym, I always ask a lot of questions, or I'm always observing. So over the time, I picked up a lot of boxing knowledge. So I thought I'd put a channel together. So it's focusing on punching technique. You know, I cover some training videos too, some preparation, a little bit of insight in psychology, you know, to how to get yourself ready for a fight and break down punches. But I try to bring a little bit of videography into it as well, and provide different angles. So, you know, sometimes there's a lot of good channels out there, but sometimes what I find is just one shot, you know, the camera's just there. You can't see, you know, with a punch in boxing, there's a lot going on with the body. You know, the legs are moving, the feet are moving, the hips are moving. So my goal is to cover all aspects of the punch and break it down technically. So, beginners can really understand it, and just it's, advanced stuff, but for beginners to kind of take on board and just cover, any aspect in boxing really, but focusing mainly on punching and, any aspect in boxing, but trying to break down technique from different camera angles, putting a bit of music behind it, So, yeah. So Boxing on the Edge, at Boxing on the Edge is a Twitter, which I've just started. And then I've got an Instagram account, which is Boxing on the Edge 11. And you can find me there. So,
yeah. And just to add some more to that, your videos are very well made, the good videography and everything, and the music and all that. And that makes it, I think, more accessible, particularly to beginners, because when a beginner turns up to, the average YouTube boxing channel where people are talking about fighters, obscure fighters and undercards and all this kind of stuff, and all these type of boxing concepts in a way that isn't so accessible, it can be a bit daunting, particularly for beginners. But the way that you've set your videos out, again, there's more advanced stuff on there, but there's a lot of stuff which is very accessible to people. And obviously you're on camera showing exactly how to throw certain punches and the thought process behind why you throw this and that, and also, different training tips and what have you. So definitely you guys check out Boxing on the Edge. You'll definitely enjoy the content on that channel. Thank you. Big up every time. And any last words from G-Man?
No, and I'm just looking forward to seeing all the good fights this weekend. I'll be watching some of the shows on Frank Warren's card on BT Sport as well tomorrow night, because he's got a show on with Callum Johnson. So that's going to be under the radar. So I'll be watching that as well.
I never even knew about that show.
I know, yeah. He picked the day. I think
bad day for Frankie boy.
Well, he's not even at it. I think he's in the States. But he's got Callum Johnson.
Who's Callum Johnson fighting?
He's fighting just some guy in a 10-rounder. And he's got Jason Cunningham and Brad Foster for the Commonwealth and European title. Yeah, I think he had planned on putting Yard Arthurs on that day, but for whatever reason that went up in the air. So you got to give it to Frankie boy. He persevered and he's putting on against the Matchroom card. And
brave man.
He's so confident he won't even be there.
And he was slagging off Matchroom for the longest for doing exactly that. For clashing, for putting the cards on the same date as his cards, and now he's just doing. Oh, Frankie boy, he is something else. That guy, and he's not even turning up to his own show. I guess he's trying to pretend that he's actually promoting Tyson Fury, and we all know it's Bob Arum promoting Tyson Fury. Yeah, I mean, the people that are on that Callum Johnson show, they might feel a little bit slighted by the fact that Frank Warren can't even be bothered to turn up to their show. He's out in the States with Tyson Fury.
There's only
there
is literally only 2 fights of note on that card anyway. It's not a great show. It's in Birmingham. And yeah, I got to give it to Frankie.
Say no more if it's in Birmingham.
That sounds like a really bad show.
It doesn't look great.
Not even there. It's, oh my God, that's
what. You know, just envisage the empty seats.
You'll have Frankie Gavin sat in the front row. Do you know what venue it's at in Birmingham?
It is in the Ultrala Arena, UTILITA Arena in Birmingham.
Oh wow!
Oh boy!
I never even heard of that place.
No, never heard of that either. Birmingham. Oh, it's like a big city that's somehow a backwater.
It's basically in the same venue where Yard fought that guy last time out. That journeyman.
Okay.
So it's the same place as there. I think that was tiny. I think that only had about 1,000 people in it.
The guy who Yard basically just tapped in the ribs and the guy collapsed to the canvas and
the pudding.
The pudding, sat out the count.
Yeah.
Okay. It's there. All right. All right. Well, thanks, chaps, for joining me on this.
Peace.
And
thanks for having me on.
Catch you guys next time.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Every time. Big up, lads.
Big up, man.
Take it easy.